Welcome to the Healthcare Provider Happy Hour. This is a safe space where we invite healthcare providers to unapologetically be themselves after the working day. My name is Jennifer George, and each week I will connect you with guests and stories that will help transform your stress to success and fulfillment. Are you with me? Grab your drink of choice and let's chat. Hey everyone, welcome to the Healthcare Provider Happy Hour. I'm your host, Jennifer George, and I'm joining you today to chat with you a little bit about how we can guide our patients and ease them into empowerment. You know, I work on an inpatient unit in hospital, and it doesn't take long for patients to lose a sense of themselves, to lose a sense of their independent identity, just after being in the hospital system and the healthcare system for a few days. It really just doesn't take that long. And I'm talking about not just the physical part of things. I'm talking about just their activities of daily living, for example, just their everyday basic needs that they have to depend on someone now, that they have to rely on time, for example, or medications that they never had to have before, things like that impact their overall day-to-day processes that are drastically different than what could have been just a few days before their admission, where they were completely independent, doing things on their time. And it's a big jump. And I can only imagine how life-altering that transition is. And as a therapist, as a physiotherapist, one of my passions is to facilitate patient independence again, because I saw my dad, who was a very independent man, go through the healthcare system losing independence day by day, especially in the earlier stages of his chronic health journey. I saw him lose that. And I'm not saying that people took that away from him, but what I'm saying is that the healthcare system is the way it is. And when people are sick, when people have fallen ill, we need support, and we as healthcare providers are there to provide that support. And we have to start thinking bigger than just the physical support and the physical care. And we have to start thinking about how that impacts our patients' well-being overall and what that really means for them, and how they may be putting that together for themselves and how that might feel for them. And so I'll never forget, and I wrote this story in my book, In Communication is Care, when my dad was in the ICU and he had a bowel movement. He was bedbound, and I really felt like at the time, he knew he had gone, but he didn't have the physical capacity or even the cognitive capacity at that time to help himself, right? To get up, to stand up with balance, and to go to the washroom. He was confused, he was delirious, so he didn't really have that capacity. But what he did know was that he had to go to the bathroom. What he did know was that he had to move his bowels. And so what I did was I was there visiting him at the time, and I had alerted the nurse because he didn't know to just press the call bell. Like that's how confused my dad was at that time. And so I alerted the nurse and I said, my dad's having a bowel movement. He's expressing discomfort. Like, can we help him out? Can we help him get cleaned up? And she had said, well, your dad's a 2-person assist. I have to wait for my partner. And so I said that was fine. So I went back, sat with my dad, tried to make him as comfortable as I could, try to distract him. And it took a very long time for that second person to come back. Okay, a very long time. And in the ICU, staff are kind of fortunate enough to have more one-to-one care. And so I went back onto the floor. There were 2 staff members at least at that time, and I was met with resistance when I requested help again. And it was a long time later, like it was a good half hour, 45 minutes later. And I couldn't believe that I was met with that kind of resistance. And I knew that resistance was then going to be received by my dad, right? That was what I think hurt the most for me. And I remember feeling so indignified for my dad, because my dad was a very independent person prior to this. And if my dad could have helped himself, he would have, trust me, is really what I wanted to say at the time. Because I felt like we were burdening, right? I felt like I was burdening the staff, when really we know that when someone is soiled, that we know that the impact that that could have medically on someone's skin, for example, not only on their psychological well-being, but also on their physical well-being as well. And I remember just feeling so indignified by the situation that I was in tears and left, because I just couldn't see my dad go through that. And I work with nurses, okay? I work with nurses, and I work with wonderful nurses. And witnessing that for me on the other side of the system has only helped me to be a better clinician, I think, because it's helped me to better empathize. It's helped me to better understand. And so when I hear complaints, let's say, being thrown at me, I don't argue them. I don't argue a complaint when it comes from a patient. I just sit there and I listen. One of the biggest things that we can do is just listen and not try to justify every single thing, right? We can't always throw out that we're short-staffed, okay? Patients know that. They see that. They read the news. They know that, okay? And I've said this in my book, In Communication is Care. They can sympathize with us, okay? But at the end of the day, they are also able to express their frustration. Sometimes there is no solution in that sense, but what we can do is come to a mutual understanding, right? So when it comes to patient empowerment, really what it is it's a process in which patients understand their role. So the World Health Organization defines it as that. And sometimes when a patient is newly in the healthcare system, they don't yet know what that role is. They don't yet know that they can be an active participant, that they have influence over their care, that they can make decisions. They don't know that yet. And so to expect that they do is sometimes a little bit too premature on our part. And then, to get frustrated by that is not really beneficial. Right? So sometimes, a patient will say to me, well, how do you think that went? Because they have no idea how it should have went, right? Or how it could have went, or, they want to know what I was expecting, because they don't know what to expect, because they had never been in this circumstance before. And they're looking to me for my knowledge, okay? They're looking to me for my expertise to help them perform in such a way that is, at their level of function currently, and maybe where they could be from there, right? Where they could go from there. So when a patient asks me that question, I think it's very insightful. But sometimes I'll answer it. Usually I'll answer it, and then I'll ask them how they think that went. And we'll see if we're on the same page, right? Another thing too, another 3 powerful questions that I often ask during a patient interaction or session, let's say, is I'll ask them, did that go better than what you expected? Did it go worse than what you expected? Or was this what you expected? And sometimes, they'll just kind of tilt their head and they'll think about it. And really, at the end of the day, what I'm trying to do as a clinician is guide my patients to develop a greater self-awareness, right, at this point and where they're at, so that they can start becoming more of an active participant in their care, right? We can't expect them to unless they really are aware of where they're at and how they're feeling and what their goals are, and whether they trust the therapeutic rapport and whether they find safety in that. Only then can they start to unlock their potential and start taking control and responsibility over their plan of care moving forward. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. So those are 3 powerful questions. I encourage you to use them, especially if someone is feeling a little bit like vague, or they're not really clear on where they're at or what they want, and they're looking to you for guidance. I just find that you can gently facilitate them in empowering themselves by asking those questions when it's right to do so in their circumstance. And you'll know that when you're in it. It'll just inevitably happen. So those 3 questions I find are really powerful. And I also find, if a patient's asking you how things went, that you can also then ask them how it went as well. And then what you'll find is that over time, if you have the opportunity to see them again on an ongoing basis, they'll start to share more, right? They'll start to share more. They'll start to share what they think they can do. They'll start to share kind of where to go from here. They're going to start to guide you a little bit more rather than to look to you constantly to guide them. Okay, it's actually quite a remarkable thing when you see someone's independence start to unfold, when you see someone start to ask questions, when they start to really start thinking about their life outside of being unwell, okay, when they start to see themselves maybe home again in my situation and asking really good questions around that. And then part of empowerment is also, as clinicians, making sure that our patients have the follow-up that they need to ease those transitions and giving them information on how to access services and to navigate the system, which is one of the biggest frustrations and also reasons why patients kind of we say fall through the cracks, is because navigating the system sucks. So if we can actually help them to navigate the system, that's huge. So those are really big things, and recognizing that where a patient is not where they once were. Please empathize that with people about how they were before this happened. Ask them questions about their life. Learn about their story. I'm telling you, these things are powerful in developing rapport and also looking for solutions, okay? Solutions that would be safe, but also would mean something to them, okay? And we don't know that until we ask. We don't know that until we know more about who they are as human beings and as whole people, okay? So if you're looking for more ways to communicate with patients, to create empowering experiences, to facilitate independence and function and recovery, I highly recommend you check out my book, Communication is Care, 9 Empowering Strategies to Guide Patient Healing. You can buy it anywhere. The Kindle is $2.99 or the ebook. And the paperback is $14.99. And so if you're not sure where to get it, you can reach out to me personally, and I'll be happy to facilitate you in accessing a copy. And if you just want to have a greater dialogue about this conversation, I would love to hear more from you. Like, how do you ease your patients into empowerment? How do you help patients achieve more internal motivation or seeing themselves well when they've fallen unwell, unfortunately? How do you restore dignity? How do you promote independence? These are things that we can't really say are so tangible, but they're basically a part of what we do every day as clinicians, and we don't realize the impact we're having, not only in our words, but also in our actions, and also in our everyday energy that we're sharing. Okay, so thank you for listening. I hope you stay well, and I hope you stay happy. So if you guys like this podcast, please subscribe and leave an honest review. Your feedback means everything to me. Your reviews are what moves this podcast forward, and I always appreciate receiving them. If you want to get a hold of me directly, reach out to me on social media. My handles are in the show notes, and you can always subscribe to my weekly newsletters at jennifergeorge.co so that we can stay connected. So until next time, thank you guys so much again for your ongoing support.